Welcome to the Whole Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you become a fat burner, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey everybody, it's the host of the Whole Triathlete Podcast, and I'm doing a special edition of post-IRONMAN podcast interviews, and today it's with Erin Carson, strength and conditioning coach, owner of Rally Sport in Boulder, Colorado, and a bunch of other things. Erin, welcome.
Thanks, good to be here.
So you are what's your title? You're a triathlon coach, you coach athletes of all levels, and you're also strength and conditioning coach.
You know, I'm more of just a strength and conditioning coach.
Okay.
My goal more than anything is to present a really strong, capable athlete to the people who do swim, bike, run coaching really, really well. So I haven't really dabbled in the other side. I admire those coaches and I love working for them, but my role really is to create the most durable athlete I can so that those group of coaches know that they can really challenge their athletes.
Yeah, that's right on. And, after being in Ironman Hawaii, as you were, I just feel, this urge to promote the holistic method that you have to train the whole athlete from the inside out with all the different elements we talk about. And, your strength is an important part, and someone else do the swim, bike, run workouts and do that. And then someone else do the nutrition and recovery. Repair is so essential, especially post-Ironman. It's the end of the year. People have been busting their butts all year doing other races leading up to this main A race that was on a Saturday. Then it's like Sunday. People kind of feel lost, confused. So today I want to focus on after the race, when they reach the finish line, what do you suggest is the next thing to do post-race?
I think anytime that we take something seriously, so I'm going to look at anybody's view of their athletic performance in three different buckets. And keeping in mind that I'm an athlete as well. I'm a triathlete. So
who kicks butt too, by the way, who wins her age group.
Well, yeah, I've had a good little run and I'm excited about the future. I'm in really good hands right now. But the biggest thing for all of us, and I think if you're under the age of 30, you can get away with a lot. So, when you're under 30 and you're listening to this podcast, you're probably ahead of the curve. But most of us who are not under 30 and we're working our way through the decades, we want to look at three different buckets. And those three buckets, I think you and I spoke so briefly when we were in Kona because it was crazy, but three different buckets. One is health, and one is fitness, and then one is performance. Those three things. And when we finish our season, whether you did Kona or whether you just qualified for Nice next year, or even if you got races still to come up with, you want to look at those three buckets and give yourself a score. How am I doing in the performance bucket? How was your season? Where did you rank? Did you improve? That kind of thing. It's really looking, you don't have to win to be a performance athlete, but if you want to get better and progression matters to you, then you're a performance athlete. If you just want to complete the race and you might want to lose a little bit of weight, then I would put you in the fitness bucket. And if you just are doing this because you think, you're making big life changes and a triathlon is going to help you make better choices, then we have to look at the health bucket. And I look at your journey, Deb, and you and I have known each other for a long time. And I think that you've spent so much time, about performance. You've been world-class athlete. You know about fitness. You're a strength coach like me. But what you've really focused on is that health bucket. And what do we really need to take care of ourselves in a really, really good way? And I'm going to name drop really quick because two of my favorite clients, although I love them all, Tim O'Donnell and Mirinda Carfrae, do a very, very good job of nurturing their health, which is why we see them as very well-balanced, high-performing athletes. I've been their strength coach for 6 years now. They both have had two different coaches, each of them, through this journey that I've been on with them. But when the season ends, they as a family regroup. You know, now they have Izzy. They have a couple glasses of wine. They watch movies. They go on walks. They go to the park. You know, you wouldn't even know they were triathletes right now. They're taking care and nurturing their health, and they're recognizing all of the tickets that they put into the performance bucket in the last 8 months to this one race.
Yeah.
So I think if we can all sit down at the end of the season and really say, how am I doing in each one of these buckets, and where are my deficits? And then here's my opportunity in the off season to get organized and put some tickets in the bucket that's going to make you better next year when you start to do the crazy things that let you be a performance athlete. Because sometimes we do have to give up some of our health to win. And I kind of look at health as friendships, rest and sleeping, the quality of sleep that we get. You know, obviously all of the vital signs are good. We're not stressing our adrenal glands and all of the things that, you know, health is about feeling good.
Yeah.
But you know, we all know that when we're trying to be the best we can do in performance, sometimes we don't feel good. You know, we're saying no to a lot of social things. Our libido suffers. You know, all of that. That's not healthy. It's not healthy not to have a good relationship with your partner.
Yeah.
So I think this is the time to take stock in that, and then make an action plan in each one of those buckets. You know, the fitness bucket, the one that just freaks me out so much is when triathletes finish racing for the season and start doing CrossFit. And I like CrossFit, but not necessarily for a high performance triathlete. Mm-hmm. You know, this is not a knock on CrossFit, but being super fit doesn't mean you're recovered.
Yeah. And I think so many people get done the race, and, you know, we talked about this with Mark Allen and his son, Matt's, that, you know, you get done the race, okay, what can I do next? And I did the same thing. And I share my story. Life is not a race. I say this every episode, I think. But, yeah, you know, you get done the race, like, oh, what can I do next? There's Malibu Marathon. There's, that North Face 50K race is December. And then suddenly you end up doing a race every month. And then, you know, you just, like, I'm trying to share this story because I haven't been able to race since that happened in 2013, because I'm like, oh, well, dude, I'm like on this high of being such elite shape and the best endurance condition you can be in. And then you just trash yourself by just not knowing when to stop.
Yeah, I think answering that question, do I want to do this or do I need to do this?
Yeah.
You know, it took me, and I'm just over 50. It took me 6 weeks, and I really paid attention, like, every day. I love exercising. Like, I've been riding my bike, and I've been hiking, and I've been doing running, you know, but I'm not racing, and I'm not training that much high end. And I've been every week, I'm like, am I ready to get back on a schedule? And last week it was like, no. And this week I'm almost to yes. But I've been listening to myself and getting to know myself, and I know next year I have huge goals. I want a podium at World Championships, but I don't need to, that's not going to happen because I did something hard in November. So, yeah, you know, I think making a really good plan and maybe bringing some experts in to help with the plan is a good plan.
So what about recovery and like the week after? Have you experimented with, you know, this ice cold, hot thermogenesis or cold thermogenesis, doing the infrared therapy and Normatec type of compression boots? What type of biohacks have you done with your athletes and at your rally sport for recovery?
You know, it's funny that I'm a little unique, and that's not my biggest thing. Is we just move. We don't add a lot of external load, and they only come in if they want to come in. So Tim and Rennie just got back from Kona. They spent a week at the Four Seasons, and they did nothing. They did a little bouncing around in the pool, ordered some cocktails, and that was their week after Kona. They are going to race again here in November. So the first couple sessions that we will do is just mobility. It's just restoring great movement, great ranges of motion, beginning to get to the point where we can address some of their hormonal deficit that might have come from preparing for Kona. And that'll come through short sets of heavier loads. So very competent, low neural demand. So things that don't make you think much. A lot of the stuff I do with my athletes, they have to think a lot. I'm going to name drop again, but Flora Duffy left today for South Africa for the next 5 months. So I won't see Flora for 5 months. And she's had a little foot injury. And a lot of what Flora needs to do is pretty high neural demand in the off season. A lot of single leg stuff, a lot of stuff. She has to do it well. She has to do it correctly to kind of restore good movement, because she had some overloaded tissues from some mountain bike crashes. So I think that just right now, everybody's in a little bit of a different place. If you're in a tweener before you need to organize your structured training, then the most important thing you can do is start to find the joy and laughter and happy in the gym and on the bike. And you should be relaxed, just turn off the power meter and turn off the heart rate monitor and just enjoy it. Same thing in the gym. Do the things you like to do and make you feel good.
Yeah, I think that's the important part, is just not have a schedule and certain criteria to finish and complete a workout, that you have to be so many watts, heart rate, duration, miles, whatever it might be, but just to go out and just go for a nice little enjoyable, happy spin to look at the fall colors, or going for a walk instead of running at a certain pace. I think it seems to me it'd be just nice to just not have any demands of your workout. Just go shorter and just enjoyable, happy, because you like to do it. And like you said, you want to be happy.
Walk when you want to walk. If you want to walk up a hill. It's still good work.
Exactly. Listening to your body, meeting it where it's at. And I think a lot of people forget to do that. And then they avoid those red flags like, oh my gosh, I'm still trashed in my body. And I'm just ignoring that and continue to run up that hill instead of walk because I'm still in recovery phase.
Yeah, if part of the recovery is understanding that you need to lose some of your conditioning to get better, and that's scary. There's a fear. I mean, there's no doubt when you put your cycling kit on right now, you look at yourself and you're like, damn, I look good, and that makes you happy. But the truth is, I mean, you did a race 3 to 4 pounds lighter than you live in a healthy state. And those 3 to 4 pounds need to come back, and then they'll go away again when you get back into your organized training. But I think we need to be okay with putting on a little bit of body fat, and the clothes aren't going to fit you're going to feel better, but you might realize that those extra couple pounds, I mean, I struggle with it just like everybody else. I get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how do you explain to people that you need to get deconditioned in order to get reconditioned and go to the next level next year? How do you get people to understand that it's
Deb, don't you think we all bring our history to the table?
Yes.
And I think as we become mature athletes, and that's not even just aging. I mean, you can become a mature athlete at 32 and 33 years old if you start to look at it from a real intellectual standpoint, because there's too much good science and good data that says you can't live where you've been. It's not good for you. So I think that these athletes that are in their 30s that start to really become champion resters and champion recreational athletes for 3 or 4 weeks, I think that they're ahead of the curve. And I think some of us who want to improve in our 40s and in our 50s, I was a basketball player, so I don't have a lot of like epic 10K times from when I was 26. So the story for a lot of us that we weren't world-class athletes in our 20s, I do believe that we can improve in our 50s. You know me as an athlete. I just had a 15-minute PR.
Wow.
15 minutes in a half Ironman.
Jeez, that's huge.
And I did that on 4 to 5 hours per week, less training.
Wow.
And I think there's a book that just kind of facilitates that, a lot of times we train scared because we're trying to get better. And I think sometimes less is more, but it has to be very, very good. somebody who's really watching your heart rate variability now, the recovery stuff that so much about. I mean, Normatex, yes. Power pumps, yes. Whatever the leg things are that people choose. Infrared saunas, yes. I personally respond very well to ice. As we know now from research, not everybody does. But when I first read the research that said not everybody does ice and ice is bad, I stopped doing ice and I found that I missed it.
Yeah, everyone. I keep just writing blogs. Everyone's individual, so everyone's probably going to recover differently and repair at a different rate.
Agree. Yeah, and there are different strategies, and so I think we as athletes, we know when we feel good and when we don't feel good, and so keeping some notes along the way and treating your recovery like you treat your training is probably pretty smart. Like, why don't we use Training Peaks with recovery? And we can.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do, a podcast with them about recovery and how you can track those metrics in there, because as we said, the so important part is that recovery time in between workouts and post races before you start ramping up for the next race. And so you can continue getting faster if you have proven in your 50 age group now that, you keep getting stronger and faster. That I hate the excuses, age, I'm getting older, I can't do this, or you're too old, you can't do this race anymore, and you're not going to get better. But you're a good proof.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't race very much either. Some people race a lot, and I'm just looking at my ranking in the United States. I'm like 155th in my age group because I only did one race, and so ranking just kind of went out the window for me. I'm like, I did one race, but I did really well. So I don't know that we need to race 3, 4, 5 times a year in a half Ironman distance. There's the sprints are super fun. The Olympic distance are super fun, and they're actually much healthier for us. Ironman is not something that I have so much respect for that I probably will never do one. But these athletes that I work with who are very good at them and they make money because they do them, even they sometimes think it's crazy. So, 1 or 2 Ironmans, I mean, I'm sure we speak to this a lot. I think people need to be careful with how much they do.
So let's go into your specialty, strength and conditioning specialist, and for post Ironman off season. So if people aren't doing November, October, or wait, it's almost November. If they're not doing a race November, December, January, what kind of strength training routine would you have people do for off season, post race season, and getting ready for the next?
So the biggest thing with my off-season programs and how we look at it, first of all, it is an individual per athlete, and we try and get it as custom as we can to who that person is. I've got some people who are very mesomorphic, and the 3 different body types is ectomorph, which is kind of skinny and has a hard time putting on muscle, and then there's a mesomorph that came out of the womb just jacked, looks amazing, like played linebacker at LSU. And then there's an endomorph, and they have a little bit more time, struggle with maybe a little bit of weight. They're a little rounder and that kind of thing. But, and then there's combination people as well. So I think the first thing we have to start with is recognize who you are and what you need. Do I need to put on some muscle? Do I need to take off some muscle? Maybe I was a little too heavy carrying in triathlon. So I deal with all of those people. And then some people need to drop some body weight, and they'll feel better. The movement, the racing will be easier if they can drop some body weight. So we want to address who the athlete is first. But for the most part, generally speaking, we want to restore great movement. So we're going to use mobility. We're going to use all kinds of different strategies just to make, we talk about the bubble, that as we age, nature wants our bubble to get smaller, that we move less and less and slower. And I want to keep that bubble as big as we can possibly keep it. So we're reaching through the hands and we're reaching through the fingertips, because even the position of the hands matters to me in movement, because there's fascia that goes through the fingers. So being able to just spread your hands out, that matters. That's a big deal with blood flow and health. So keeping the bubble big, restoring great movement, recognizing that hard swim, bike, run training can bring you smaller. So then the second part of that is every athlete should have 3 to 5 exercises that they do very, very well, that we can create a heavy loading strategy with them. So everybody's got a different body type. I already shared with you that did I share with you? I was just doing a consult before. I was like, did we talk about back squatting?
No.
I don't back squat my athletes. So I do not load the spine vertically from the back. And I do that because there's enough compression that happens to the spine. So I will front squat. I like to goblet squat. I like to cable squat. I love squatting, but I don't put the bar on the back with my endurance athletes. So there's a lot of different squatting patterns, but sometimes the heavy load for a lot of my athletes is a leg press. I'm not afraid of a low neural demand. Put you in a chair, let your core not work, and you're going to push as heavy as you can through the legs, because you will get a stimulus from that and it'll be safe for you. So it's funny because I think you talked to Mark Allen before me this week, and when Mark was training Tim O'Donnell, I'm not a big leg presser until Tim was like, I want a leg press. And I talked about it with Mark and he agreed. So all of a sudden, I've got O'Donnell, the fastest man in Kona ever, American, who loves the leg press. So how can I say anything bad about the leg press?
Yeah.
It's just an amazing Kona. And for T.O., it puts him in a very safe position, keeping in mind he wasn't a soccer player or a basketball player. Coming up through high school and college, he was a swimmer. So he's not used to putting the bar on his back. For us to load his legs ridiculously heavy, we put him in a machine. Now that's not true for everybody, but that for T.O. is. So I think everybody needs to find their sweet spot of things they can lift heavy. And I love the hex bar for deadlifting, much better than the straight bar. It doesn't compromise that SI joint to the same extent. And it's not that straight bar deadlifting is bad, but if you have tight hips, which most triathletes do, right, it's a very difficult lift to do well. So I think we need to find that heavy loading strategy to restore the healthy hormonal balance, because when you can lift something heavy, it will stimulate testosterone for both men and women. So
we all need that.
Right? I'm just a very traditional strength coach in that venue. There's a spectrum of strength coaches. You know, when you are a very strong functional trainer or you're a very strong traditional strength trainer. And I like to run the gamut of that and make choices daily with the athletes based on what they want to achieve. But in the off season, that's the time when your stuff that's in the gym can compromise your swim, bike, run a little bit. So if you go into a swim and you've done a good gym session and you're tired, the gym session might not be as good, or the swim might not be as good. In the in season, that is a no-no for me. But in the off season, compromising some of your sport specific training for some gains in the gym, I'm okay with that.
And that gets complicated too, I know, because if you lift weights in the morning and then say you go swim masters at lunchtime, like, oh my gosh, I just worked all my muscles, I just lifted, my arms are jelly, my swim's crap. Or if you just did leg day, you did, a lot of lunges and step ups, you go running, your legs are shot, or biking hills.
Yeah, Julie Dibbins is very good for in the off season, giving her athletes. We swim in gym a lot. So they'll do their swim and then they come and meet with us for gym. Dibbins flips that in the off season. She's like, you are going to gym and swim.
So that's your priority more. It's the strength training. Yeah.
And the athletes hate it. They're like, why do we have to do this? And it's just like, just ask Julie. I'm just doing what I'm told.
Well, yeah, I would say if people don't like what they're doing, it's probably what their body needs more of.
Right. Hold on just a second. Yeah. There we go. Sorry about that, Dan.
Yeah. So I just think a lot of times when stuff we don't like is what we need to do more. And we don't, that's why you need a coach, a strength coach, or a trainer, because they're going to you're going to do the stuff you're good at training on your own. So my was not just because I am a personal trainer, but I just see it at people at the gym when I go work out at the athletic club, that everyone's doing the same old thing all the time, and you do what you're good at. Even myself, like, gosh, I got to go get myself out of the comfort zone, do these harder drills or whatever exercises that you just don't do on your own, because you just stick with the chest press, bicep curls. I'm going to do just the basics. So I think it's really important to even invest in a coach, to strength coach once a week, to get the exercises right, because I just cringe at people doing it the horrible form. Like a push-up, for example, is so poorly done.
I will say, and this is maybe a good time if it's okay if I plug, when I had the opportunity to start working with some of the pros, I started getting a lot of requests for people to do what we're doing. And I have an app that has a lot of pictures for good form. And so the EC Fit Boulder app has some free stuff on it, or you can buy programs, but it really is nice because you get a full visual of how to do the exercise, not just a description.
Yeah. I think that's a key for athletes listening to do that, because as someone that just knows what good form and alignment and good mobility drills, I watch what people do on their own, and don't just get someone to teach you to do it right, because or else you're just wasting your time. And it's so essential to have that good mobility. And, just think of hip flexion, extension. How many people, their range of motion is so limited and their glutes aren't engaging because they're not able to get their leg back there. So then they're not engaging or moving correctly when they run and bike. It's just, triathlon sports are not good for our posture either. So
no, that's been one of my biggest things. I just became a certified foundation instructor, and I knew that I wasn't a yoga personality, but I knew that I needed something to kind of balance some of the hard driving strength stuff that I enjoy and I like to use with people. And I needed a way to bring it back and nurture that parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest a little bit more. And foundation is just all about brilliant posture and rib cage expansion and controlling and decompressing the spine. So that's been a really good thing for me and a good tool, but there's so many good tools out there to just help people engage that backside of their body and be able to stand tall and offset a lot of the effects of gravity.
So do you suggest that for your athletes then, of all levels, pros and just age groupers, to do yoga during off season a little bit more, or whatever type of foundation work they prefer? Because not everyone, like you said, likes yoga.
I mean, yoga it runs the gamut, right? There's good yoga and bad yoga. There's good strength and bad strength training. I think the most important thing is to recognize the positions that you want to be in for your sport, and then be careful not to overstretch, and be careful not to do end range too much in a yoga class. I mean, there is such a thing. There is healthy tightness that makes you fat. So I think sometimes yoga, a very small percentage of it can slow you down. It can be too much. They're doing yoga for the sake of yoga. So if you can do something that's a little bit more geared towards performance, even if it's yoga, if they're calling it yoga for athletes, and you're doing a lot of hip opening and postural engagement, because tension is not a bad thing if it's in the right place. Yeah. So we don't want to lose some of that healthy tension in the class.
So it's a good example of a off-season training week for an triathlete. An off-season
strength for me is 2.5 to 3 times a week. So I will say a half, because 20 to 30 minutes in the gym is super valuable time in the gym. My sessions usually are 40 minutes to 45 minutes. When your volume goes really high with swim, bike, run, there's a lot to be said for 20 to 30 minutes in the gym, or even in your basement. You don't need to go to the gym. I like to move every day. I don't, for me, a day off might be just easy stuff, easy bike ride, because I feel better when I keep moving. That's not true of everybody though. And you know that.
Yeah.
So I like to do something every day. It makes me a nicer boss.
I know. It does feel good to move. I don't know how people can sit still all day and do nothing, but I think it's that fine line, how much is too much and how much is too little, and get that, just, get outside for 30 minutes, even go for a walk. Or I think, that's the hard thing for a lot of triathletes. Doing an hour workout seems like a waste of time, or going out for a 30-minute run that they think, it's not worth the effort, but it's actually mentally beneficial. Just get that blood flowing into your brain and clarity.
Yeah. So I think everything, do the things that you like and listen. And, it's funny. I did a podcast a couple years ago, and I know how to take care of myself. I know the 3 things that make me happy. And I think that people in general, and triathletes especially, because we're a very hard driving group of people, I think there are things that make you happy, and you need to do those things. They need to be part of your week. And a nice bike ride, and even for me, being on my TT bike is very different than being on my road bike. Not everybody has that luxury of having both. Mm-hmm. But when I go on my road bike, it's not work time, it's play time.
Yeah.
So when I get on my TT, I'm a completely different brain. And
that's true.
And when I hike, I choose who I'm going to hike with. If I hike with my partner, we're just going to walk and hike with the dog, and it's totally chill, as opposed to when I go with the person that I know will push me a little bit. So I tend to, in the off season, do things that make me happy. Yeah. So I think that knowing those 3 things, and that would be a good challenge for people. What are the 3 things that make me happy? And then do more of them. Sometimes it's go to a movie.
Yeah. And I wrote a blog the other day about post-IRONMAN depression, how, it's the day after, you get this letdown, you go home, you get that high kind of wears off, and you're like, now what? And said, go to a movie, go for a hike, go for friends that you never saw for the last 6 months, and your family. I mean, there's so much to do that it's exactly what you just said, is do stuff that makes you happy, do stuff that makes you laugh, because we get so serious, and because we get so type A competitive personalities, and we're go, 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 then it's like, all right, let's see the other side of life that I've been missing out on.
And I think then too, Deb, that can really, in a healthy way, remembering those 3 buckets, in a really healthy way. Once we've spent our off season, it's one thing if you don't ever want to exercise, but I don't think that's our audience. It's not who we're talking to. They're going to go work out. We're just trying to create some information that might help them stay more balanced. And it is really interesting, because I'll start really hardcore training in January for Lava Man, and which is where we met.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is I've realized through November and December that I really like myself when I'm happy. I like myself when I'm going to a movie. I like myself when I'm hanging out with friends that aren't triathletes. And if you can let some of that leak into your competitive season, you'd be surprised how much more you'll enjoy what we're doing.
You're right on. I totally agree with that. And I think I found that out, not being able to race the last few years, and how it's like, I can go for a road bike and just like, look at the houses and say hi to the animals that I pass all the time on the road. And it did, when I was training or racing, I would pick workout partners that I knew would push me a little bit more. And I'd avoid those ones that stress me out, because it's always a race when you train. So it is mixing up those training partners so you have the fun time as well, non-competitive workouts.
Word. I couldn't agree more. And they leak nicely. I don't like training people that like to push me. They poke the bear, as I say. I'm like, you need me to kick your ass right now, because I will. But I don't want to.
I'm in my happy place.
Happy place.
Yeah. So let's just share your links, or where people can find that strength conditioning workout they can do on the app, and any other information and any stuff you have coming up next year.
Cool. Yeah, I'm building a team around me. Like I said, I'm not trying to be anything I'm not. I'm a strength coach, and that's what I'm passionate about. I own a business here in Boulder, and it keeps me super busy. I'm committed to my athletes. But EC Fit Boulder is kind of my gig. So it's www.ecfitboulder.com. That's my website, and that'll kind of lead you into the app. And the app is the delivery system for the products. So there's no in-app purchase. You go to the app, and I've got some demo stuff on there all the time so people can kind of see what it's about. But I'm creating more customized plans for people because I do have the pros. I love the pros. And as we all know, they don't make a lot of money, but they have a large platform and ability to help age groupers like us who care. Mm-hmm. So I'm giving them a platform to speak to their audiences through the app by sharing the stuff we do in the gym. So Rinny has a program, the Ironman program. I've got Kara Goucher, 2-time Olympian, who's got a running program in the app. Flora, we just filmed hers before she went off to Stellenbosch. So I think seeing the pros and being able to train like they train is really authentic. And my biggest message, to any of my pros is that we want, you want to win a world champion, but you want to do this for a long time. It's sad to go the journey. I mean, I'll say it's sad, Deb, because you were a champion. I mean, and you had to go through a lot of challenges and you haven't been able to race, and you were one of the best in the business. And you've been so kind and generous to share your story and help people. And that's kind of what I want to do, that help people just stay balanced. First, they have the privilege of working with, they have the same goal. And so we're sharing a lot through their top of the triangle kind of journey. They're the best in the world. But those of us who just want to do this until we're 70 because it makes us happy. We make good friends through this sport. We feel good through this sport. If we do it in a healthy way, we end up getting to do it for a long time. And I love the bikes. I mean, I just want to buy bikes. So it's just, there's so many beautiful things around it. The travel is fun and all of the above. So EC Fit Boulder is just a brand that I created that I can deliver these messages to people in a global platform. So
good for you. Well, I'm always impressed by everything you're doing. You're always at one step ahead of everybody on the strength and conditioning platform. Your mobility, stability, and strength is so essential to performance. And to combine that with the top coaches out there for triathlon, swim, bike, run workout sessions is a really way to gain that extra edge on the competition.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much, Deb. You're awesome. You're great for the sport, and so many people. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Try my best.
Thanks for listening to the Whole Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at wholeathletepodcast.com. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.